guys, I hope you're all okay. I hope you had a good Monday. Welcome to the second lesson of the week for English and poetry. I hope you enjoy it. So, you should be here if you are in the Indigo and or Jade group. And this is the fifth lesson on poetry, and it is Tuesday the 9th of June today. I nearly said July. That was wishful thinking. All you're going to need today is pencil, paper, and yourselves. Make sure you write the date and the LI. So the LI today is I know what features can be used in a poem. You're going to be able to understand the features of a poem, create a glossary with the terms you have learnt, and you are going to be learning technical terminology for poetry. Okay, so today it's going to be a little bit different. You will need to pause the video on each slide. I haven't done the signs today, I completely forgot, so I do apologise. Pause the video on each slide, and I want you to create a glossary. So on your piece of paper, on one side you'll want to write the term. So it might be, for example, Onomatopoeia. And then on the right hand side, you're going to write the definition. I would absolutely love it if you can maybe draw some pictures to remind you or create your own examples. You do not need to copy the writing that's on these slides. It's far too much and you won't learn anything from it. So you're going to go, that's what that means. How can I write it in my words that I will remember? So, poetry. You don't need to write this down unless you want to. Remember, you're only making notes today, nothing else. Poetry is a form of literature and a very wide genre of writing, or it's a genre. It is a form of imaginative writing that can be written by anyone. People choose to write poetry based on many things, expressing their thoughts or feelings about something, and it's really, really creative. The aim of the poetry is to stimulate the reader, making the reader feel something. Do you remember we always talk about making the reader feel? And it could be happy, it could be sad, it could rhyme, it might not, it could be short or long. And it's all about the writer, the poet, being able to express their thoughts. Okay, so these are all different types of poetry. So you've got acrostic poem, sonnet, epic, blank verse, simile, coloured, tetractys, pantoum, diamante, ballad, haiku, echo verse, limerick, renga, kenning, riddle, shape, cinquain, ode, free verse, tyburn, senryu, lyric, and tanka. I haven't heard lots of those before. I think you will have heard of some of them. I would have thought you have heard of acrostic, haiku, kenning, cinquain maybe, limerick. I know some of you, I think Listercast wrote limericks last year. So, this is where your glossary starts. So on the left, you're going to write the word adjectives. Now, a lot of you know what adjectives mean. So maybe you'll write down your definition of adjectives. So adjectives we know are describing words. They are used so that the reader can think of things in their head. They can build a picture of what the writer is saying. And it describes the noun. So, for example, instead of just saying roads, you could say roaring roads. That makes you think, oh, they're quite fast, maybe. Noisy cars. You could have quiet cars. So it makes you think, oh, those cars are really noisy. It makes you build up a picture and thinking, that's what it sounds like. Do you see how it's got two adjectives here? Dark, cold, night. A night can be warm, a night can actually be quite light sometimes. So it's telling us it's dark and it's cold. So it really helps the reader build up a picture in their head of what the writer wants us to think about. So, just going to go back to that. You need to pause the video, write down adjectives, give me a little description on the right hand side of your piece of paper, and you might draw a little picture, or maybe write one of your own examples. So, for example, you could have the quiet school. the busy supermarket. Okay? So our next word, or our next term, this one's quite hard to say and to spell. I struggle myself. Onomatopoeia. 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 Well done. Onomatopoeia is when a word imitates a sound. So, for example, bang makes us think of a bang. Crash. Pop. Bzzz. So it's a word that makes us think of a sound, or when we say it, it creates that sound. So buzz. Tick, tock, tick. And it's used quite often in poetry, actually. We read a lot about it in the Sound Collector. We will be going back to that. And yeah, it makes it a bit more expressive and interesting. So that's your second word for today. So onomatopoeia on the left, and a little description of what an onomatopoeia is, because we're going to be needing this glossary when we write our own poem later this week. So pause the video while you're doing that one. Repetition. I think we all know what repetition is, and we saw a lot of it in the poem Please Mrs. Butler. So it's when something is repeated more than once. So, for example, we had Please Mrs. Butler, then we had Please Mrs. Butler, and then we had Please Mrs. Butler. So it might be, there's a poem in one of the Winnie the Pooh books, and it talks about going round a table. Round about and round about and round about I go. All around the table in the nursery. I think I am a milkman. I can't remember the rest of it off my head. But can you see the repetition is the roundabout, roundabout, and roundabout you go. Okay? So, don't forget to pause the video and write down what repetition is. Well done. So syllables. You will have heard about syllables in music. So, we can count syllables as we speak. So it's kind of like the beat, but they're kind of like sounds in the beat. So, syllable, syllable, Miss Hewer, cat, Fluffy, catches mouse, my faithful pet. Do you see? So some words might have one syllable, some words might have more than one. You might have garden. How many syllables does garden have? That's right, it's 2. Well done. So, when one syllable, so cat, car, school, chair, is monosyllabic. And if it has more than one syllable, so breakfast, dinner, cartoon, it's called polysyllabic. That's quite tricky. Quite a lot to remember on that one, so make sure you write down, pause the video, take your time. Right. Now, we learnt a lot about verbs yesterday in the Sound Collector, didn't we? We had a lot of sound verbs. Do you remember the bubbling of the bath? So remember, verbs are doing words or action words. And they often tell us how somebody does something. So, for example, the boy ran along the shoreline. The women it should be woman, held her baby tightly held. It followed her to school one day. We know lots about verbs, I expect you guys do, because you're superstars. So pause the video and write down your definition for verbs. Remember, you can add some pictures with it, because otherwise it'll be a boring glossary. Oh. Right, ooh, alliteration. Oh, I love alliteration. So it's when the sound or letter at the beginning of each or most of the words in a sentence is the same. For example, there's a different one here, but I'm going to read out the one that some people know. She sells seashells on the seashore. She sells seashells on the seashore. That's also a tongue twister, and you're meant to get faster and faster. Let's read the rest of them. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. All authors allow authority after midnight. Teresa tripped and tumbled tremendously over the tree. Do you see? They've highlighted all the first letters that match the alliteration in a different colour. And it can build up suspense and make it really effective and make that reader feel something. Can you come up with any of your own alliterations? Maybe you'll choose a different letter. Maybe you'll go, the kicking kangaroo kicked kiwis through Kenya. That was one off the top of my head. That used a lot of K's for the alliteration. Pause the video, write down your definition, and try and give me an example of your alliteration. Rhyme. Oh, we've seen a lot of rhyme. Do you remember in the sound collector? Lines 2 and 4, they rhymed, didn't they, at the end? So rhyme is when two words sound the same when they're spoken out loud. They usually end the same, but they don't get spelt the same. So they might have ing, they might have ay, and usually they're digraphs or trigraphs. Okay, so we might have frightened night, wooden hood, should and could. Lots of different ones, and we saw loads in the sound collector. See if you can find any in yesterday's sound collector video. Pause the video while you write down your definition for rhyme. Similes, right. Similes are quite tricky to actually learn to write, but I want you guys to practice today. So, it's a figure of speech. So, for example, when you're working really hard, you call that you're as busy as a bee, because bees work really hard and they're like moving all the time, they're like buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. So they go, you are working as busy as a bee. As snug as a bug in a rug. That's somebody who's cozy, like a bug would be. So you would use the words as, something as a, or something like something. So runs like a cheetah. So you'd compare it with something else. As quiet as a mouse. As loud as a lion. As shiny as a diamond. Okay? That one's quite tricky to learn how to do. Can you come up with 2 examples of some similes for me? Pause the video while you write down your definition and come up with a couple of examples for me. Okay. Metaphor. This is similar to a simile, but it describes a place, an object, or subject as something unlikely. So, for example, her eyes were glistening jewels. Our eyes aren't jewels, are they? But they can sparkle, they can shine like jewels. She is the sunshine that brightens up our day. We can't be sunshines. The sun shines up there. But we can brighten up somebody's day with the way we act, the way we speak, the way we behave. This is quite tricky to learn how to do, but I want you to have a go at this. Maybe think about how you can describe yourself or somebody who you live with. Pause the video while you write your definition. Remember not to copy everything, because that wouldn't be learning. So, tomorrow, what are we going to do tomorrow? We are going to look back over the 2 poems we've done and see if we can spot any of the terminology we have looked at today. And we're also going to be looking at a new poem, which is rather exciting. Okay, so that's for tomorrow. I would love to see your learning. Don't forget to send it to me. I'd love to see your glossary with your pictures, with your illustrations, and some of your poems from last week if you haven't sent them to me already. It's been really nice chatting to you guys today. See you soon. Bye.